My sister stood up at our family Thanksgiving dinner, cleared her throat, and announced to everyone at the table, "Mom and Dad told me you've never contributed anything to this family." The entire room erupted in laughter while I sat there, frozen in midair, staring at the smug smile plastered across her face. But what they didn't know was that I had receipts, recordings, and bank statements in my car that would flip this entire dinner upside down. So would you have stayed silent? Or would you have burned it all down right then and there? I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. The moment I pulled into my parents' driveway that Thanksgiving evening, I should have known something was off. My younger sister Vanessa's car, a brand new pearl white Audi Q5 that my parents had helped her purchase 6 months ago, was parked front and center, gleaming under the porch lights like some kind of trophy. Meanwhile, my 10-year-old Honda Civic, the one I'd bought entirely with my own money after working double shifts at a warehouse during college, sat tucked away near the mailbox like an unwanted guest. I grabbed the pumpkin pie I'd picked up from Marie's Bakery, the expensive place downtown, not the grocery store, and headed toward the front door. The sound of laughter and clinking glasses filtered through the windows. I was exactly on time, 6 p.m., just like Mom had requested in her text message 3 days earlier. But as I stepped inside, the warmth I'd hoped for was replaced by something else entirely. Something cold. "Oh, look who finally decided to show up," Vanessa called out from the living room, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She was sprawled across the leather sectional, another recent purchase my parents had made, holding a glass of wine that was definitely from Dad's expensive collection, the bottles he kept locked in the cabinet for special occasions. "I'm literally on time, Vanessa," I replied, forcing a smile as I set the pie down on the entryway table. 6 o'clock, just like Mom asked. She rolled her eyes dramatically, the same way she'd done since we were kids whenever she didn't get her way. "Sure, Riley, right on time." "Just like you're always right on time with helping out around here." I chose to ignore the jab and walked into the kitchen where Mom was pulling a massive turkey out of the oven. The smell was incredible. Rosemary, thyme, and butter mixing together in a way that usually made me feel like I was home. But tonight, even that felt tainted. "Hi, Mom," I said, leaning in to kiss her cheek. She barely looked up. "Riley, good, you're here. Can you start setting the table? Vanessa's been helping me cook all afternoon and she needs a break." Mom wiped her hands on her apron, the one I'd bought her too, Christmases ago with "World's Best Mom" embroidered on it, and gestured toward the dining room. "All afternoon?" I glanced at the clock. It was 6:02 p.m. I'd been here for 2 minutes, and already the narrative was being written. Vanessa, the perfect daughter who'd spent her entire day helping. Riley, the one who just showed up expecting everything to be done. I bit my tongue and started pulling plates from the cabinet. The formal china, the set that came out only for Thanksgiving and Christmas. As I arranged each plate carefully on the mahogany dining table, the table my parents had saved up for years to buy, back when they still believed in teaching us the value of hard work, I could hear Vanessa in the living room talking to Dad. "I'm just saying, it would be nice if Riley contributed more, you know? I'm always here helping with stuff and she just shows up." My hands froze on the silverware. I strained to hear Dad's response, but his voice was too low, just a murmur of agreement that made my stomach churn. I placed the forks and knives with mechanical precision, each clang against the table a little louder than necessary. The dining room filled up quickly after that. My Aunt Diane and Uncle Marcus arrived with their twin boys, 8-year-old tornadoes named Cody and Brennan, who immediately started running through the house. My mom's sister, Aunt Cheryl, came alone. Her husband was working overseas, carrying a green bean casserole that looked store-bought despite her insistence that she'd slaved over it all morning. Everyone gathered around the table, the energy buzzing with that particular kind of forced cheerfulness that comes with family obligations. I ended up sitting between Cody, who kept kicking the table leg, and my cousin Jeffrey, a college sophomore who spent the entire time scrolling through his phone. Dad stood at the head of the table, carving knife in hand, ready to perform his annual tradition of slicing the turkey while delivering a speech about gratitude. He wore his favorite burgundy sweater, the one Mom had bought him from Nordstrom last year using money from their joint account, the same account I'd contributed $2,000 to last April when they'd called me panicking about an unexpected property tax. "Bill, before we eat," Dad began, his voice taking on that authoritative tone he'd perfected during his 30 years as a high school principal. "I want to go around the table and have everyone share what they're thankful for this year." Oh, God. The gratitude circle. I'd forgotten about this torture. Aunt Diane went first, talking about how blessed she was to have healthy children. Uncle Marcus mentioned his recent promotion at the engineering firm. Aunt Cheryl got emotional talking about her husband's upcoming return from his contract job in Germany. Jeffrey mumbled something about being thankful for Wi-Fi, which earned him a disapproving look from Dad. Then it was Vanessa's turn. She set down her wine glass, her second one. I'd been counting, and placed both hands flat on the table like she was about to deliver a presentation. The smile on her face was the kind you see on people right before they drop a bomb disguised as a compliment. "I'm thankful," she began, her voice syrupy sweet, "for parents who appreciate the children who actually show up for them. Who helps out? Who contribute?" The word contribute hung in the air like smoke. Several heads turned toward me, confusion flickering across their faces. Mom and Dad exchanged a glance, something unreadable passing between them. "I'm thankful," Vanessa continued, her smile widening, "that Mom and Dad can count on at least one of their daughters." My fork felt heavy in my hand. Aunt Cheryl looked uncomfortable, suddenly very interested in her green bean casserole. Uncle Marcus cleared his throat. The twins, oblivious, continued fighting over who got the drumstick. I opened my mouth to respond, but Dad cut in quickly. "All right, Vanessa, that's enough. Riley, you're up. What are you thankful for?" Every eye at the table locked onto me. I could feel my face heating up, that prickly sensation of embarrassment mixed with anger creeping up my neck. What was I thankful for? That I'd driven an hour through traffic to be here? That I'd spent $45 on a pie from the fancy bakery because I knew Mom would judge me if I showed up with something from Walmart? That I'd rearranged my work schedule, losing out on holiday overtime pay, just to sit here and be insulted? "I'm thankful," I said slowly, carefully measuring each word, "for the opportunity to see everyone tonight." It was diplomatic, safe, completely devoid of the actual emotion churning in my gut. Vanessa snorted into her wine glass. Actually snorted, like I'd told a joke. The rest of the gratitude circle passed in a blur. I barely heard what anyone else said, too focused on the way Vanessa kept shooting me these triumphant little glances, like she'd won some competition I didn't know we were having. Dinner started with the usual chaos of passing dishes. Compliments to Mom about the turkey being perfectly moist, Dad's annual complaint about the cranberry sauce being too tart. I loaded my plate mechanically: turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, the obligatory spoonful of green beans, and started eating without really tasting anything. "So Riley," Aunt Diane said, clearly trying to break the awkward tension that had settled over the table like fog. "How's work going? Still at the hospital?" "Yeah," I replied, grateful for the neutral topic. "Still in the ICU. We've been short-staffed, so I've been picking up extra shifts." "ICU nursing," Uncle Marcus said, nodding approvingly. "That's intense work. Good money, though, right?" Before I could answer, Vanessa jumped in. "Oh, Riley makes decent money. She just doesn't like to share it with the family." The table went quiet. "Even the twins stopped bickering, Vanessa," Mom said quietly, a warning in her tone. But my sister was just getting started. I could see it in her eyes, that glassy determination that came after too much wine and too much time spent building up resentment. She leaned forward, addressing the entire table like she was a prosecutor presenting evidence. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. I'm here every weekend helping Mom and Dad with stuff around the house. I take them to their doctor's appointments. I help with groceries. Meanwhile, Riley shows up on holidays, eats dinner, and leaves." "That's not—" I started, but she talked right over me. "When's the last time you helped them with anything, Riley? When's the last time you offered to pay for something, or fix something, or just be here when they needed you? My throat tightened. The unfairness of it all was staggering, suffocating. I thought about the $2,000 for property taxes, the $500 I'd given Dad last year when his car needed a new transmission, the countless times I'd sent grocery delivery to their house after particularly long shifts when I knew Mom wouldn't feel like cooking, the medical bills I'd helped them navigate using my hospital connections. But before I could list any of this, before I could defend myself against this character assassination happening over cranberry sauce and sweet potatoes, Vanessa stood up. She actually stood up, pushing her chair back with a screech against the hardwood floor. The theatrical gesture of someone who'd been waiting for exactly this moment. "You know what?" Vanessa announced, her voice rising with every word. "Mom and Dad told me, they told me, that you never contribute anything to this family. They said it. Not me, them." And then, as if this weren't already the worst Thanksgiving of my entire life, as if she hadn't just humiliated me in front of our entire family, everyone at the table started laughing, not uncomfortable chuckles. Real laughter. Aunt Diane covered her mouth, but her shoulders shook. Uncle Marcus let out a full belly laugh. Even Aunt Cheryl cracked a smile. Jeffrey didn't look up from his phone, but I saw the smirk. Mom and Dad? They didn't laugh. But they didn't defend me either. They just sat there, Dad carving another piece of turkey like nothing had happened, Mom suddenly very focused on refilling water glasses. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. Their silence was so much worse than laughter. I sat frozen in my chair, the laughter echoing around me like I was trapped inside some kind of nightmare dinner theater. My hands gripped the edge of the table so hard my knuckles went white. The turkey on my plate suddenly looked unappetizing, the gravy congealing into a brown puddle that matched exactly how I felt inside. Vanessa was still standing, soaking up the attention like she'd just delivered the punchline to the world's funniest joke. She reached for her wine glass, took a long, deliberate sip, and sat back down with the satisfied smile of someone who believed they'd won. But something inside me had shifted. That tight feeling in my chest, the one I'd been carrying since I walked through the door, maybe even longer than that, was transforming into something else entirely. Something sharp and clear and done with being polite. "That's really interesting, Vanessa," I said quietly. My voice cut through the dying laughter like a knife through warm butter. The table quieted down, sensing a change in atmosphere. She looked at me with those perfectly mascaraed eyes, one eyebrow raised in challenge. "What's interesting? That Mom and Dad told you I never contribute?" I set down my fork with deliberate care, the clink against the plate louder than it should have been. "That's a fascinating statement, because I'm trying to remember the last time you contributed anything beyond showing up and complaining." Mom's hand froze halfway to her mouth, her fork suspended in midair. Dad's jaw tightened, that muscle near his temple starting to twitch the way it did when he was about to lay down the law with a student. "But I wasn't a student, and I wasn't a child anymore. Excuse me?" Vanessa's voice went up an octave, that fake sweetness evaporating instantly. "You heard me." I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. "Let's talk about contribution. You want to do this here in front of everyone? Fine. Let's do it." Aunt Diane shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Uncle Marcus suddenly became very interested in his mashed potatoes. The twins, sensing adult drama they didn't understand, had gone silent for the first time all evening. "Riley, maybe we should—" Mom started, but I held up my hand. "No. Mom, Vanessa wanted to have this conversation at Thanksgiving dinner in front of the entire family, so let's have it." I turned my full attention to my sister. "You said you're here every weekend helping out. What exactly are you helping with?" Vanessa's face flushed red. "I help with lots of things. I take them to appointments. You took them to one appointment. Dad's dental cleaning in August. I know because Mom called me afterward to tell me about it. And she seemed surprised that you'd actually shown up." I felt a calm settling over me, the kind that comes when you finally decided to stop playing nice. Meanwhile, I've taken Mom to 4 cardiology appointments this year, 3 of which were on my days off. I rearranged my schedule for Dad's colonoscopy in June because you said you had a work thing that turned out to be brunch with your friends. That's not, Vanessa sputtered. But I wasn't finished. You help with groceries? Really? Because I have receipts on my phone for the grocery delivery service I set up for them. It comes every 2 weeks. Automatically. Has been for the last 8 months. That's roughly $4,800 I've spent making sure they have food in the house. Dad cleared his throat. Riley, you don't need to. Yes, I do need to, Dad. Because apparently, you and Mom have been telling Vanessa that I don't contribute. And now she's announcing it at Thanksgiving dinner like it's breaking news. I pulled out my phone from my pocket. Should I pull up my bank statements right now? We can go through them line by line. Would everyone like to see the $2,000 I sent in April for property taxes? Mom's face went pale. Riley, that was a loan. A loan that was never paid back. I'm not asking for it back, by the way. But let's not call it a loan when we both know it was a gift. I scrolled through my phone, the evidence mounting with every swipe. The $500 for Dad's transmission. The $700 for the new refrigerator after the old one died. The $300 I sent when the AC broke in July. Should I keep going? The table had gone completely silent. Even Jeffrey had put down his phone, watching with wide eyes like this was better than whatever was on his social media feed. Vanessa's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. I didn't know about all that. Of course you didn't. Because unlike you, I don't announce every single thing I do for them like I'm expecting a standing ovation. The words came out harder than I intended, but I was past the point of softening the blow. You know what you do contribute, Vanessa? Drama, complaints, and an endless need for validation. Riley. Mom's voice was sharp now, defensive. That's enough. Vanessa has been very helpful. Helpful how, Mom? I turned to face her directly and she actually flinched. Seriously, tell me, what has she done that's so helpful that you felt the need to tell her I don't contribute? Mom's mouth worked for a moment, searching for words. Dad jumped in, his principal voice activated. You're being disrespectful, Riley. This isn't how we talk to each other in this family. You're right. In this family, we apparently talk about each other behind their backs and then laugh when it gets thrown in their face at dinner. I stood up, my chair scraping back. I work 60-hour weeks at the ICU. I deal with life and death every single shift. And I still make time to help you both, to send money when you need it, to be there for medical appointments and emergencies. Nobody asked you to do any of that, Vanessa shot back, finding her voice again. You can't just throw money at people and act like that makes you a good daughter. The accusation hit like a slap. You're right. I can't. So let me ask you something, Vanessa. When's the last time you paid for anything yourself? Your car, your apartment, your phone bill? She went quiet, her face turning an even deeper shade of red. That's what I thought. I picked up my purse from where I'd hung it on the back of my chair. Your Audi? Mom and Dad helped you with a $30,000 down payment. Your apartment? They co-signed and paid half your rent because you can't keep a job for more than 6 months. Your phone bill? Still on their family plan? Riley, that's not fair, Dad interjected. Your sister is still finding her footing. She's 28 years old, Dad. When do we stop calling it finding her footing and start calling it what it is? You're enabling her to never grow up. I grabbed my coat from the rack near the door. I moved out at 22 and haven't asked you for a single dollar since. In fact, I've given you thousands. But somehow, I'm the one who doesn't contribute. Aunt Cheryl finally spoke up, her voice tentative. Maybe everyone should just take a breath. No, Aunt Cheryl. I'm done taking breaths. I'm done being the responsible one who gets treated like she's the problem. I looked around the table at all of them. My family. The people who were supposed to have my back. You all laughed. You laughed when she said I don't contribute, like it was the funniest thing you'd ever heard. Did any of you stop to think that maybe, just maybe, you didn't know the whole story? Uncle Marcus had the decency to look ashamed. Aunt Diane wouldn't meet my eyes. The twins just looked confused, and Jeffrey had gone back to his phone, probably live tweeting this disaster. I'm leaving, I announced, heading toward the door. Thank you for dinner, Mom. The turkey was great, as always. "Riley, don't go," Mom said, standing up from her chair. But there was something in her voice that wasn't quite an apology. More like concern about what the family would think if I left. "Actually, I think leaving is exactly what I need to do." I paused at the doorway, turning back one last time. "You know what the saddest part is? I came here tonight excited to see everyone. I bought the expensive pie from Marie's because I knew it was your favorite. Mom, I left work early and drove an hour through traffic because family is supposed to matter." My voice cracked slightly on that last word, and I hated myself for it, for showing weakness, for caring this much when clearly they didn't care enough about me to defend me against Vanessa's accusations. "But I get it now," I continued, my hand on the doorknob. "In this family, contribution means showing up and being visible. It means making noise about every little thing you do so everyone knows about it. It doesn't matter what you actually do behind the scenes, what you sacrifice, what you give up. If they don't see it, it doesn't count." Vanessa was crying now, actual tears running down her face, ruining her makeup. "You're making me sound like a horrible person." "I'm not making you sound like anything, Vanessa. I'm just telling the truth, something we apparently don't do much of in this family." I pulled open the door, the cold November air rushing in. "Enjoy the rest of your dinner. I'm sure you'll have plenty to talk about once I'm gone. Riley Ann Fitzgerald." Dad's voice boomed out, using my full name the way he did when I was a kid who'd broken curfew. "If you walk out that door, you're being childish and immature." I turned back one final time, meeting his eyes. "No, Dad. If I stay, I'll be a doormat. There's a difference." And then I walked out, pulling the door shut behind me with a decisive click that felt like the ending of something bigger than just Thanksgiving dinner. The cold air hit my face and I realized my cheeks were wet. I was crying, angry tears that I wiped away roughly with the back of my hand as I hurried to my car. My stupid old, paid for with my own money Honda Civic that suddenly looked a lot better than Vanessa's shiny Audi with its $30,000 guilt down payment. I got in, started the engine, and sat there for a moment, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Through the window, I could see the warm glow of the dining room, the silhouettes of my family still sitting around the table. Probably already dissecting everything I'd said. Probably painting me as the bad guy who ruined Thanksgiving. My phone buzzed in my purse. I pulled it out and saw a text from Mom. "Please come back inside. We can talk about this." I stared at that message for a long moment. The old Riley, the people-pleasing, peacekeeping Riley, would have gone back inside. Would have apologized for making a scene. Would have smoothed everything over and pretended like nothing had happened. But Riley was exhausted. That Riley was done. I put the car in reverse and backed out of the driveway, leaving my expensive pie on the entry table and my dysfunctional family in my rearview mirror. The drive home was a blur of streetlights and strip malls decorated with Christmas lights that seemed way too cheerful for how I felt. My phone kept buzzing in the cup holder, text after text lighting up the screen. But I didn't look. I couldn't. Not yet. I just drove, my hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only solid thing in a world that had suddenly shifted beneath my feet. The radio was off. The silence in the car felt heavy, broken only by the occasional hiccup of a sob I couldn't quite suppress. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex in Riverside Heights, it was almost 8:30. The parking lot was mostly empty. Most people were still at their own family dinners, probably having normal conversations about football and pie recipes instead of financial spreadsheets, and whose turn it was to be the family scapegoat. I climbed the stairs to my second-floor unit, each step feeling heavier than the last. My apartment was dark when I walked in, exactly how I'd left it 5 hours ago when I'd been naive enough to think tonight would be fine. Maybe this year will be different. I didn't bother turning on the overhead lights. I just kicked off my shoes, dropped my purse on the counter, and collapsed onto my couch in the dark. The streetlight outside my window cast long shadows across the ceiling, and I lay there watching them, trying to process what had just happened. My phone buzzed again. And again. And again. Finally, I grabbed it, the screen brightness making me squint. 17 missed texts, 4 missed calls. I scrolled through them, my stomach churning with each one. Mom, please come back inside. We can talk about this, Mom. Riley, you're being dramatic. Just come back, Dad. Your behavior tonight was unacceptable. Call me when you're ready to apologize. That one made me actually laugh out loud, a bitter sound that echoed in my empty apartment. Apologize. Of course. Because I was the one who'd started this whole thing by, existing? Not fighting back while I was being publicly humiliated? There were 3 texts from Aunt Cheryl. Are you okay, honey? Followed by, that was a lot, and finally, your parents are pretty upset. Uncle Marcus had sent, drive safe. At least someone was worried about my physical well-being instead of my parents' feelings. And then there were Vanessa's messages. 5 of them. Vanessa. You're such a bitch, Vanessa. You just had to make everything about you, Vanessa. Mom is crying because of you, Vanessa. I hope you're happy, Vanessa. Don't bother coming to Christmas. I stared at that last message for a long time. Don't bother coming to Christmas. Like I was the problem. Like I'd been the one who stood up at dinner and announced someone's supposed failures to the entire family. The only person who hadn't texted was Jeffrey. But honestly, I wouldn't have expected him to look up from his phone long enough to notice I'd left. I set my phone face down on the coffee table and went to the kitchen. I wasn't hungry. The thought of food made me nauseous, but I poured myself a glass of wine anyway. The cheap kind from Trader Joe's, not the expensive bottles Dad kept locked up for special occasions. As I sat back down on the couch, wine glass in hand, my phone rang. Not a text this time, an actual call. Mom's face appeared on the screen. The photo from last Christmas where we'd all posed in matching red sweaters that she'd insisted on buying. I let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. Then it went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, it rang again. This time I answered. What, Mom? Don't what Mom me, Riley Ann. Her voice was tight, controlled anger mixed with something that might have been hurt. What you did tonight was completely out of line. I took a sip of wine, letting the silence stretch for a beat. What did I do? Are you serious right now? You embarrassed your sister in front of the entire family. You aired private financial matters at the dinner table. You walked out in the middle of Thanksgiving. She was ticking off my crimes like a prosecutor reading charges. Do you have any idea how that made us look? There it was. How it made them look. Not how it made me feel to be laughed at. Not whether Vanessa's accusations were true or fair. Just how it reflected on them. I embarrassed Vanessa? I could hear my voice rising, that calm from dinner starting to crack. She stood up and announced to everyone that I don't contribute to this family, Mom. She said you and Dad told her that. Everyone laughed at me. And you didn't say a word to defend me. That's not... She paused, recalibrating. We never said you don't contribute. Vanessa must have misunderstood something. Must have misunderstood. I set down my wine glass before I threw it. That's convenient. So she just made up that entire conversation. She pulled that specific accusation out of thin air? Mom's silence told me everything I needed to know. You did say it, I said quietly. Maybe not in those exact words, but you said something. Something that made her think it was okay to humiliate me at Thanksgiving dinner. We were having a private conversation about family dynamics, Mom finally admitted, her voice defensive. Vanessa mentioned that she'd been helping out more around the house, and we might have said something about wishing you were around more. That's all? That's all? I stood up, pacing my small living room. Do you have any idea how much I do for you and Dad? The money I've sent? The appointments I've taken you to? The groceries, the bills, the emergency calls at 2 a.m. when something breaks? And we appreciate all of that, honey, we do. But Vanessa's right that she's here more often. She stops by every weekend. To do what exactly? I interrupted. Tell me specifically what she does when she stops by. Because from where I'm standing, stopping by to eat your food and do her laundry isn't the same as actually helping. Another pause. Longer this time. She keeps us company. She keeps you company. I almost laughed again. So companionship counts as a contribution, but thousands of dollars in actual practical help doesn't? Money isn't everything, Riley. You're right. It's not. But apparently, visibility is, and I'm tired of being invisible just because I don't make a performance out of every single thing I do for you. I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. Why didn't you defend me tonight, Mom? When Vanessa said that, when everyone laughed, why didn't you say something? The question hung in the air between us, carried across phone lines and the physical distance of the 45 miles between my apartment and their house. I didn't want to make things worse, she finally said, her voice smaller now. You didn't want to make things worse. I repeated the words slowly, tasting the bitterness of them. So you let your daughter be humiliated instead. You let everyone think I'm some deadbeat who doesn't care about her family. That was the better option? Riley, you're being unfair. No, Mom. What's unfair is working myself to exhaustion at a hospital, dealing with dying patients and bereaved families, and then coming to Thanksgiving dinner only to be told I don't do enough. What's unfair is sending you money whenever you ask and never hearing a thank you. But Vanessa brings over a casserole and you act like she's won Daughter of the Year. I could hear Dad's voice in the background now, saying something I couldn't make out. Mom covered the phone, their muffled conversation barely audible. Then she came back on. Your father wants to talk to you. I don't want to talk to Dad. Riley, I mean it, Mom. I'm done for tonight. I'm tired, I'm upset, and I need space. I stood up again, walking to my bedroom. Tell Vanessa she gets her wish. I won't be coming to Christmas. Don't be ridiculous. You can't skip Christmas? Watch me. I pulled back my comforter, suddenly desperate to just be unconscious. I love you, Mom, but I can't do this right now. I can't be the person you need me to be while also being treated like I'm not enough. We never said you weren't enough. You didn't have to say it. You showed me tonight. I sat on the edge of my bed, one hand pressed against my forehead where a headache was forming. I need to go. Riley Ann Fitzgerald, don't you dare hang up this phone. But I did. I pressed the red button and watched her name disappear from my screen. Then I turned off my phone completely, the screen going black and silent. I sat there in the darkness of my bedroom, still wearing the nice blouse and slacks I'd put on, thinking tonight mattered. Thinking family mattered. My reflection stared back at me from the mirror on my dresser. Mascara smudged. Eyes red, looking nothing, like the put-together ICU nurse who'd walked out of this apartment a few hours ago. That nurse had believed she was going home. This person realized she'd been homeless for a lot. Longer than one Thanksgiving? Dinner. I crawled into bed fully clothed, pulled the covers over my head and let myself cry. I really cried. Not the angry tears from the car or the frustrated tears at dinner. These were the deep, soul-shaking sobs of someone who'd finally admitted that the people who were supposed to love her unconditionally had been keeping score all along. And somehow, despite everything she'd done, she was still losing. Outside my window, I could hear my neighbors coming home from their own Thanksgiving celebrations. Their laughter and chatter drifting up through the walls. Normal families having normal nights. I wondered what that felt like. My last thought before I finally fell asleep was about the pie. That expensive $45 pumpkin pie from Marie's Bakery, still sitting on my parents' entry table where I'd left it. I hoped they choked on it. I woke up Friday morning to my alarm blaring at 5:30 a.m., the sound drilling into my skull like a punishment for last night's wine and tears. For a blissful 3 seconds, I didn't remember. Then it all came crashing back. The dinner, the laughter, the texts, the phone call. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand where I'd tossed it after turning it back on. 23 new messages. I scrolled through them with detached curiosity, like I was reading someone else's family drama instead of my own. Most were more of the same. Mom insisting I was overreacting. Dad demanding respect, Vanessa playing the victim. But there was one from a number I didn't recognize, sent at 11:47 p.m. Unknown. Hey Riley, it's Jeffrey. I know I don't usually get involved in family stuff, but what happened last night was messed up. Just wanted you to know not everyone thinks you're the bad guy here. I stared at that message for a long moment. Jeffrey, 20-year-old Jeffrey who never looked up from his phone. He'd noticed. He'd cared enough to somehow get my number and send a text at midnight. I typed back, "Thanks, Jeffrey. That means more than you know." Then I dragged myself out of bed and into the shower, letting the hot water wash away the dried tears and smudged makeup. I had a 12-hour shift starting at 7, and the ICU didn't care about family drama. People were still dying, still fighting for their lives, still needing someone who had their shit together enough to keep them alive. The irony wasn't lost on me. I could save strangers' lives but couldn't navigate a family dinner without it exploding. Work was brutal. We had 3 codes before lunch: a massive car accident victim who didn't make it, and a COVID patient who'd been circling the drain for days, finally succumbing despite everything we tried. By the time my break came at 2 p.m., I was running on fumes and the stale coffee from the break room. I sat in the staff lounge staring at my phone. More messages had accumulated throughout the day. I started reading through them, each one adding another layer to this disaster. Mom had sent a long paragraph at 9 a.m. "Riley, I've been thinking about what you said last night, and I'm hurt that you think we don't appreciate you. Your father and I have always been proud of you and your career. If we gave you the impression that we don't value your contributions, I'm sorry. But walking out on Thanksgiving and refusing to come to Christmas is taking things too far. Family is about forgiveness and moving past disagreements. Love, Mom." There it was. The classic non-apology wrapped in guilt. "I'm sorry if we gave you that impression." Not, "I'm sorry we said that." Or, "I'm sorry we let Vanessa humiliate you. Just sorry I had feelings about it." But it was the next message that made my blood run cold. From Vanessa, sent at 10:30 a.m. "Mom just told me about all the money you've been sending them. I didn't know. But that doesn't give you the right to throw it in everyone's face like you're some kind of hero. Some of us contribute in ways that don't involve checkbooks." I read it 3 times, my coffee going cold in my hands. She didn't know. Mom had just told her this morning, which meant last night, when Vanessa stood up and announced I never contributed, she genuinely believed it. Because our parents had never told her about the money. About thousands of dollars. About any of it. They'd let her believe I was a deadbeat daughter. They'd had conversations with her about my lack of contribution without once mentioning that I'd been financially supporting them for years. They'd let her feel superior, let her think she was the good daughter, all while cashing my checks and never saying a word. My hands started shaking. This was so much worse than I'd thought. "You okay, Fitzgerald?" I looked up to see Marcus Chen, one of the other ICU nurses, standing in the doorway with a concerned expression. Marcus and I had gone through nursing school together, and he knew me well enough to know when something was wrong. "Family stuff," I said, setting down my phone. "Thanksgiving disaster." He winced sympathetically and grabbed a chair, sitting down across from me. "Want to talk about it?" And suddenly I did. I told him everything, the whole humiliating story from start to finish. Marcus listened without interrupting, his expression growing more incredulous with each detail. "Wait, hold up," he said when I finished. "Your parents took your money but never told your sister? They let her think you were the problem?" "Apparently." I rubbed my eyes, exhaustion seeping into my bones. "I don't even know what to do with that information, Marcus. Like, why? Why would they do that?" He leaned back in his chair, considering. "Okay, I'm going to say something, and you might not want to hear it, but here it is. Your parents are using you as a financial safety net while using your sister as an emotional security blanket. They want your money but her presence, and they've figured out how to get both without either of you realizing the full picture." The words hit like a physical blow. That's pretty harsh, is it though?" Marcus pulled out his phone and started typing. "Think about it. They call you when they need money. When do they call you just to talk? Just to see how you're doing?" I opened my mouth to answer, then closed it. When was the last time Mom had called just to chat? Not to ask about covering a bill or to guilt me about missing a weekend visit, but just to talk? "And your sister?" Marcus continued, warming to his theory. "They probably complained to her about money problems. Let her feel needed and helpful with her company, all while never mentioning that you're the one actually solving those problems. Classic triangulation? They're playing you against each other." Why would they do that? My voice came out smaller than I intended. Marcus shrugged. Control? Habit? Maybe they don't even realize they're doing it. But Riley, you need to ask yourself, what happens if you stop sending money? They'd struggle. The property taxes alone. What happens if you stop sending money? He repeated more firmly this time. Do they call you angry? Hurt? Do they accuse you of abandoning them? Or do they call Vanessa and tell her to step up? I hadn't thought about that. In all my years of sending money whenever they asked, I'd never once said no. Never once tested what would happen if I stopped being their ATM? You need boundaries, Marcus said gently. Like yesterday. And you need to stop letting them rewrite history. You weren't wrong to call out what happened at that dinner. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Aunt Diane. Your mother called me very upset. She says you're refusing to come to Christmas and won't return her calls. Riley, honey, I know last night was uncomfortable, but family is family. Maybe you should apologize and move on. I showed the text to Marcus. He made a disgusted sound. Of course they're doing a phone tree. Getting everyone to pressure you. Classic. She wants me to apologize. I could hear the disbelief in my own voice. For what exactly? For telling the truth? For not playing your role? Marcus stood up, our break time ending. Look, I've got to get back. But seriously, Riley, think about what you want from these people and whether they're capable of giving it to you. You can't fix people who don't think they're broken. He left, and I sat there for another minute, staring at Aunt Diane's text. Family is family. I'd heard that phrase my entire life, usually right before I was expected to accept something unacceptable or forgive something unforgivable. I typed back, Aunt Diane? I love you, but I'm not apologizing for defending myself. If Mom is upset, she's welcome to apologize for not defending me when I was being humiliated. Until then, I need space. Send. The rest of my shift passed in a haze of vitals and medications and doctor's orders. But in the back of my mind, Marcus's words kept circling. What did I want from my family? And more importantly, were they capable of giving it? By the time I clocked out at 7 p.m., I'd made a decision. I drove straight to Target, walked to the electronics section, and bought a new phone number activation kit. Then I went home, transferred only the contacts I actually wanted to keep. Work people, friends, Jeffrey's new number, and left the old number behind. Mom called the old number at 8:15 p.m. I watched it ring from my new phone, the device sitting on my counter like evidence of my old life. I didn't answer. At 8:47 p.m., Dad called. Then Vanessa at 9:03 p.m. I turned off the old phone and slipped the SIM card out, feeling lighter with each small action. Marcus was right. I needed boundaries. And apparently, I needed a whole new phone number to enforce them. My new phone buzzed. I'd given the number to exactly 5 people. It was a text from my best friend Simone, who I'd texted earlier from my new number. New phone, who dis? Hey, it's about damn time you cut off the vampire family. Proud of you. Wine tomorrow? I smiled for the first time in 24 hours and typed back, yes, and bring the good stuff. Then I ordered Chinese food, put on my favorite show, and spent the evening doing something I hadn't done in longer than I could remember. I relaxed. No guilt about missed calls. No anxiety about text messages piling up. No waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just me, my egg rolls, and the quiet realization that maybe, I'd been contributing to the wrong family all along. The family I needed to invest in was the one I was building for myself. Saturday. Morning came with sunshine streaming through my bedroom window, and 0 missed calls on my new phone. It felt surreal, peaceful, like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally remembered how to exhale. Simone showed up at noon with 2 bottles of wine, 1 red, 1 white, and a bag of gourmet snacks from that expensive market downtown. She took one look at me, still in my pajamas with my hair in a messy bun, and pulled me into a hug. Okay, she said, releasing me and heading straight for my kitchen. Tell me everything. And I mean everything. Your text last night was cryptic as hell, so I did. For the second time in 2 days, I recounted the entire Thanksgiving disaster, But this time, with wine flowing and my best friend making appropriately outraged faces at all the right moments, it felt less like a tragedy and more like the plot of a bad Lifetime movie. Wait. Simone held up her hand, pausing me mid-story. Your parents took thousands of dollars from you and never told your sister? They literally let her think you were a deadbeat? That's what Marcus said too. He called it triangulation. Marcus from work? Cute Marcus with the dimples? Simone waggled her eyebrows, momentarily distracted. Focus, Simone. Right, sorry. But he's right. That's textbook manipulation. She poured herself more wine, settling deeper into my couch. And your dad actually told you to apologize? For what, having a spine? I laughed, a real laugh that felt good in my chest. Apparently, speaking the truth at Thanksgiving dinner is a cardinal sin in the Fitzgerald household. Well, the Fitzgerald household sounds toxic as hell. Simone raised her glass. Here's to your new phone number and your newly discovered backbone. About time, babe. We clinked glasses and I felt something shift inside me. For the first time since Thursday night, I didn't feel guilty. I felt justified, maybe even a little proud. So what's the plan? Simone asked. Because you know they're going to show up eventually, right? Your mom strikes me as the type who doesn't take silence as an answer. She was right. I'd been so focused on the immediate relief of cutting contact that I hadn't thought about the long game. I don't know. I mean, I gave Jeffrey my new number, but that's it. Jeffrey? Your cousin who never looks up from his phone? He texted me after dinner. Said it was messed up, that not everyone thinks I'm the bad guy. I showed her the message, and Simone's expression softened. Okay, maybe there's hope for the next generation. She grabbed her own phone. Have you checked social media? Because I guarantee your sister is posting about this. I hadn't even thought of that. My stomach dropped. Oh God, is she? Simone was already typing, her fingers flying across her screen. Let me check. Okay, her profile is public, which is her first mistake. And, yep, there it is. She turned her phone toward me and I felt my jaw drop. Vanessa had posted a long Instagram story, the kind with multiple slides filled with text over a soft pink background. The first slide read, "When you realize family isn't always who you think it is." The second, "Sometimes the people you love most will turn on you over nothing. They'll make you the villain in a story you didn't even write." The third, "To those of you who know how to show up for family without keeping score, thank you. You're the real MVPs." She did not, I breathed, scrolling through the rest. There were 5 more slides, each one more passive-aggressive than the last, talking about performative help and throwing money around to avoid real connection, and some people would rather be right than be family. Oh, she absolutely did. Simone grabbed her phone back. And look at the comments. Your Aunt Diane loved it. So did... Wait, is that your mom? I looked closer. Sure enough, Mom had commented, "So proud of you for rising above this drama." My hands started shaking, wine sloshing in my glass. She's making herself the victim. She's literally rewriting the entire thing. Of course she is. That's what narcissists do. Simone took my wine glass before I could spill it. But here's the thing. Anyone with half a brain who reads can see its manipulation. Look at the comments from people who don't know the situation. They're asking what happened. She was right. Mixed in with the supportive comments from family members were questions from Vanessa's friends. What drama? Are you okay? Want to talk about it? She's fishing for sympathy, I said slowly, understanding Dawn. She wants people to ask so she can tell her version first. Exactly. She's controlling the narrative. Simone handed my wine back. So the question is, do you let her or do you tell your side? I thought about that for a long moment. The old Riley would have stayed silent, let it blow over, avoided making things worse. But the old Riley had also let herself be walked over for years. I'm not posting anything, I decided, because anything I say will just add fuel to the fire. Plus, I'm not about to air all our family's financial business on Instagram. Smart. Simone nodded approvingly. Take the high road. Let her look desperate for attention while you just live your life. We spent the rest of the afternoon watching movies and eating too much cheese, and for a few hours, I forgot about the whole mess. But around 5 p.m., my new phone rang with a number I'd saved. Jeffrey. Hey, I answered, stepping into my bedroom for privacy. Riley, hey. He sounded nervous. I'm at your parents' house right now. Sunday dinner thing. And I thought you should know. They're planning to come to your apartment. My blood went cold. What, when? Tomorrow. Your mom and Vanessa, they're saying you won't return their calls and they're worried about you. He lowered his voice. But Riley, it's not that. Your mom is pissed. She's been on the phone with relatives all day, and Vanessa won't shut up about how you attacked her at Thanksgiving. They're not coming to check on you, they're coming to ambush you. I sat down hard on my bed. Did they say what time? After church. So probably around 1 p.m. There was a pause. I tried to talk them out of it. Told them to give you space, but they're not listening. Your dad's staying home. I think he's actually more mad than your mom. Which is saying something. Thanks for the warning. Jeffrey? Seriously? Yeah, well, someone should be on your side. He paused again. For what it's worth? I've been watching them all weekend. The way they talk about you when you're not here. It's not cool, Riley. I never noticed it before, but now I can't unsee it. After I hung up, I sat there for a moment, processing. Then I walked back to the living room where Simone was scrolling through her phone. They're coming here tomorrow, I announced. Mom and Vanessa. Jeffrey just warned me. Simone's head snapped up. Like hell they are. This is your home. Your space. You don't have to let them in. I know. I'm not planning to. Good. She stood up, grabbing her jacket. But I'm coming over tomorrow at noon. Just in case you need backup. Simone, you don't have to. I'm coming over at noon, she repeated firmly. And we're going to sit in your apartment and watch them knock on a door that doesn't open. Because you know what? You deserve to have boundaries respected, even if your family never taught you that. After she left, I spent the evening preparing. I made sure my door chain was secure. I closed my blinds. I even went so far as to draft a text message that I could send if they showed up. I asked for space, and you're not respecting that. Please leave or I'll call the apartment security. As I got ready for bed that night, I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I looked different somehow. Tired, yes, but also stronger. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. My old phone, still turned off in my kitchen drawer, represented everything I was walking away from. The guilt, the obligation, the endless cycle of giving and never getting anything back but criticism and complaints. My new phone, charging on my nightstand, represented something else, entirely. Choice. Freedom. The radical notion that I could decide who got access. To me and under what terms. I set an alarm for 11 a.m., plenty of time to be ready before the confrontation, and climbed into bed. For the first time in days, I didn't cry myself to sleep. I didn't feel anxious or guilty or like I'd done something wrong. I felt ready. Tomorrow. Mom and Vanessa would show up at my door expecting the old Riley. The one who apologized for things that weren't her fault. The one who smoothed things over and made herself smaller so everyone else could be comfortable. But that Riley was gone. She'd died somewhere between the laughter at Thanksgiving dinner and the moment I'd pulled that SIM card out of my old phone. And the new Riley? She had finally learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is close the door on people who refuse to see your worth. Even if those people share your DNA, especially if those people share your DNA. I fell asleep with my phone on silent and my door locked. 2 small acts of self-preservation that felt like revolution. Simone arrived at my apartment at 11:45 a.m. Sunday morning, carrying a thermos of coffee and a determined expression that told me she was ready for war if it came to that. Okay, she said, setting up camp on my couch like a general preparing for battle. Game plan. When they knock, you don't answer. If they keep knocking, you tell them through the door that you asked for space and they need to leave. If they don't leave, we call apartment security. Clear? Crystal. I poured myself coffee from her thermos, grateful for both the caffeine and the moral support. You really didn't have to give up your Sunday for this. Are you kidding? This is way better than brunch with my mother-in-law. She settled in, pulling up Netflix on her phone. Besides, this is what friends do. We show up when ambushes are threatened. We didn't have to wait long. At exactly 1:07 p.m., there was a sharp knock on my door. 3 precise raps that somehow conveyed annoyance even through solid wood. Simone and I exchanged glances. "That's them," I whispered, even though they couldn't hear me. "You've got this," she whispered back, giving my hand a squeeze. I stood up, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole. Sure enough, Mom stood in the hallway wearing her church clothes, a navy blue dress with the pearl necklace Dad had given her for their anniversary. Vanessa was right behind her, arms crossed, looking like she'd rather be literally anywhere else. The knock came again, louder this time. "Riley? Riley, we know you're home. Your car's in the parking lot." I took a deep breath and spoke through the door, my voice steady. "I asked for space, Mom. I'm not ready to talk yet." There was a pause. I could see Mom's face through the peephole, surprise flickering across her features. She hadn't expected me to actually refuse to open the door. "Riley Ann, don't be ridiculous. Open this door right now." Her voice had taken on that sharp edge, the tone that used to make me immediately comply when I was a kid. But I wasn't a kid anymore. "No, Mom. I told you I needed space. Showing up at my apartment when I asked you not to isn't respecting that. We're your family." Vanessa's voice cut in, shrill and indignant. "You can't just cut us off because you had a tantrum at Thanksgiving." Something hot flared in my chest, but I kept my voice level. "I didn't have a tantrum. I defended myself after you publicly humiliated me. There's a difference." "I didn't humiliate you," Vanessa shot back. "I told the truth. You don't contribute to this family." "Vanessa, that's enough," Mom said, though her tone suggested she was managing her daughter rather than disagreeing with her. "Riley, please." We drove all the way out here. The least you can do is open the door and have a conversation like an adult. I looked back at Simone, who made an exaggerated, "do not open that door" gesture with her hands. She was right. This wasn't a conversation, it was an ambush, just like Jeffrey had warned. "Mom, you're welcome to have a conversation. But not today and not on your terms. When I'm ready to talk, I'll reach out." I pressed my palm against the door, steadying myself. "Right now, I need you both to leave. We're not leaving until you open this door." Vanessa's voice had risen to a near shout. "This is insane. You're acting like we did something terrible when all I did was point out that you're never around. You announced to the entire family that I don't contribute, and everyone laughed," I said, my own voice rising despite my best efforts. "You stood up at Thanksgiving dinner and humiliated me based on information that wasn't even complete." "What information?" Vanessa demanded. "What are you talking about?" Through the peephole, I saw Mom grab Vanessa's arm, her face suddenly pale. "Vanessa, let's just go." "No." "What information, Riley? You keep talking about money and contributions like you're some kind of saint, but you never actually help with anything that matters." And there it was. The opening. The moment where I could either let it go or burn it all down. I chose fire. I'm talking about the $2,000 I sent Mom and Dad in April for property taxes, the $500 for Dad's transmission, the $700 for the refrigerator, the $300 for the AC repair, the $4,800 I've spent over the last 8 months on grocery deliveries. My voice was calm now, deadly calm. I'm talking about every medical appointment I've taken them to, every emergency bill I've covered, every time they called me at 2 a.m. because something broke and they needed help. Silence from the other side of the door. Through the peephole, I could see Vanessa's face had gone slack with shock. She turned to Mom, her expression confused. "Is that true?" Vanessa asked quietly. Mom's silence was enough. "Oh my God," Vanessa's voice cracked. "You never told me. All those times you complained about money, about struggling with bills, you never once mentioned that Riley was helping." "It wasn't relevant to our conversations," Mom started, but Vanessa cut her off. "Wasn't relevant? Wasn't relevant?" Now Vanessa was the one getting loud. "You let me think she was a terrible daughter. You told me I was the only one who showed up, who cared, Who helped out? You do help out, Mom said defensively. You're here every weekend, eating your food and doing my laundry. Vanessa's voice broke. That's not helping, Mom. That's me using you as a free service while judging Riley for not being around more. I stood frozen on my side of the door, barely breathing. This wasn't how I'd expected this to go. Vanessa, calm down, Mom tried again. Don't tell me to calm down. You made me into the bad guy. You let me stand up at Thanksgiving and say all that stuff about Riley, and you knew it wasn't true. She was crying now. I could hear it in her voice. Do you have any idea how stupid I feel right now? How cruel must I have looked? You didn't look cruel, Mom said, her voice taking on that soothing tone she used when we were kids and upset. You were just defending yourself. From what? Vanessa shouted. From Riley, who's apparently been bankrolling you for years while I've been sitting around feeling superior? Oh my God, I posted all that stuff on Instagram. I made her look like the villain when I'm the one who… Her voice choked off into sobs. Through the peephole, I watched Mom try to put her arm around Vanessa, but my sister shook her off. The dynamic I'd watched my entire life, Mom comforting Vanessa, making everything better, was crumbling in real time in my apartment hallway. Why would you do this? Vanessa asked, her voice small now. Why would you let me think she didn't care? What did you get out of pitting us against each other? I wasn't pitting you against each other, Mom protested. It's just, Riley has money. She has a good job. She can afford to help. You're still finding your way and you help in different ways. By existing? By showing up and making you feel needed? Vanessa laughed, a bitter sound. That's not helping, Mom. That's emotional manipulation. You wanted me to feel special while also keeping Riley on the hook financially. I heard Simone's sharp intake of breath behind me. Marcus's theory about triangulation was playing out in real time, confirmed by the person I'd least expected to see it. This is ridiculous, Mom said, her voice hardening. Riley, are you seriously going to stand there and let your sister have a breakdown in the hallway? Let us in, but I was done taking orders. No, Mom. This is something you need to work out with Vanessa. I'm not your mediator and I'm not your referee. Fine. Mom's voice cracked like a whip. You want to know the truth? Fine. Yes, Riley sends money. And yes, I didn't tell you, Vanessa, because Riley's money comes with strings. Every time she helps, I have to hear about it eventually. Every contribution comes with judgment about how we're managing our finances or our lives. My mouth fell open. What? You do, Mom interrupted. You act so superior, like you've got it all figured out. Like you're better than us because you have a good job and can afford to help. So yes, I let Vanessa feel special. Because at least she doesn't make me feel like a charity case every time she comes over. The words hung in the air like poison gas. Simone had come to stand behind me, her hand on my shoulder, and I was grateful for the support because I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I never made you feel like a charity case, I said quietly. I helped because you're my parents and I love you. You helped because it made you feel good about yourself, Mom shot back. Don't act like you're some kind of martyr. You chose to send that money. Nobody forced you. You asked for it. My voice broke. Every single time you called me, you asked, and I sent it because I thought that's what family did. And then you threw it in everyone's face at Thanksgiving. Mom was fully angry now, all pretense of being the worried mother gone. You want to talk about humiliation? Try having your daughter announce your financial problems to the entire family. You already did that when you let Vanessa believe I was a deadbeat. I was shouting now too, past the point of caring about apartment walls or neighbors. You created this whole situation by lying, by letting her think I didn't care when I've been supporting you for years. Maybe we wouldn't need your support if you'd actually visit instead of just sending checks. Mom fired back, and there it was. The real issue, not that I didn't contribute, not that I wasn't there, but that I wasn't there in the exact way she wanted, doing the exact things that made her feel loved, while also bankrolling their lifestyle. She wanted everything, and she wanted it exactly her way. I'm done, I said, my voice suddenly calming again. I'm done with this conversation, done with the guilt trips, done with being the bad guy no matter what I do. You need to leave now. Riley, Vanessa started, But I cut her off. Both of you need to leave. Now. Or I'm calling security. Through the peephole, I saw Mom's face go red. You wouldn't dare. I pulled out my phone and dialed the apartment security number I'd saved yesterday. Hi, this is Riley Fitzgerald in Unit 2B. I have 2 people in my hallway who I've asked to leave and they're refusing. We're leaving. Vanessa grabbed Mom's arm. Mom, come on. This is insane. Riley Ann, if you hang up that phone and let them come up here, Mom threatened, but Vanessa was already pulling her toward the elevator. We're leaving, I told the security guard. Thank you. I hung up and watched through the peephole as Vanessa practically dragged Mom down the hall. Mom kept turning back, her mouth moving, saying things I couldn't hear and didn't want to. When the elevator doors finally closed behind them, I slumped against my door. My legs suddenly weak. Simone was there immediately, guiding me to the couch. Holy shit, she breathed. Did that just happen? I think so. My hands were shaking. Did you hear everything? Every word. And Riley? She squeezed my hand. I'm so sorry. For what? That your mom said those things. That she twisted your help into something ugly. Simone's eyes were bright with angry tears. You deserved better than that. I leaned back against the couch, emotionally exhausted. But underneath the exhaustion was something else. Something that felt almost like relief. At least now I know, I said quietly. At least now I know exactly where I stand. 3 weeks passed before I heard from any of them again. 3 weeks of the quietest, most peaceful December I'd had in years. I worked my shifts at the hospital, had dinner with Simone twice, went to a yoga class I'd been meaning to try for months, and actually read a book for fun instead of collapsing into bed every night, exhausted from emotional labor. My new phone stayed blissfully silent except for the people I actually wanted to hear from. Marcus sent me funny memes from work. Simone texted me daily updates about her mother-in-law's latest antics. Jeffrey checked in twice to make sure I was okay, but from Mom, Dad, and Vanessa? Nothing, until December 18th when a text came through from a number I didn't recognize. It's Vanessa. Jeffrey gave me your new number. Can we talk? Just me, not Mom. I stared at that message for a full 5 minutes, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to delete it, block the number, maintain the peace I'd fought so hard to create. But another part, the part that remembered Vanessa's voice breaking in the hallway when she realized what Mom had done, was curious. I typed back, coffee, public place. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., Brewster's on Main Street. Her response came immediately. Thank you. I'll be there. The next day, I arrived at Brewster's 15 minutes early, ordered a large latte, and claimed a table in the back corner where I could see the door. Old habits from nursing. Always know your exits. Always position yourself strategically. Vanessa walked in at exactly 2 p.m., and I barely recognized her. She wasn't wearing makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail instead of the elaborate styling she usually preferred. She wore jeans and a sweater instead of the designer clothes Mom always gushed about. She looked normal, real, maybe even a little lost. She spotted me and walked over, hovering awkwardly by the chair across from me. Can I sit? That's why we're here, I said, gesturing to the chair. She sat down slowly, carefully, like she was afraid sudden movements might make me bolt. I ordered ahead on the app. They're bringing it over. A pause. I didn't want to waste your time waiting in line. It was such a small thing, but thoughtful in a way Vanessa had never been with me before. I nodded, waiting for her to speak first. I deleted the Instagram posts, she said finally, her hands wrapped around the coffee cup a barista had just delivered. All of them. And I posted an apology. I didn't name you specifically, but I made it clear that I'd been wrong and had said things based on incomplete information. Okay. I sipped my latte, still waiting. Riley, I'm so sorry. Her voice cracked, and I saw tears welling up in her eyes. I'm sorry for what I said at Thanksgiving. I'm sorry for the posts. I'm sorry for every shitty comment I've made over the years about you not being around enough or not caring enough. I didn't know. I should have asked, should have questioned what I was being told, but I didn't. I believed it. Why? The question came out sharper than I intended. Why did you believe it so easily? Why was it so easy to think the worst of me? She flinched but didn't look away. Because it made me feel special. Because Mom and Dad made me feel like I was the good daughter, the one they could count on, and I liked that feeling. I liked being needed. She wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. And if I admitted that you were helping too, helping more than me, in ways that actually mattered, then I wasn't special anymore. I was just me. The honesty of it hit me like cold water. So you knew on some level. Maybe? I don't know. She shook her head. After you left Thanksgiving, after that scene at your apartment, I went home and really thought about it. About all the times Mom would complain about money and then suddenly the problem would be solved. About how Dad's car got fixed, or how they got that new appliance, or how the property taxes got paid. I never asked where the money came from. I just assumed, I guess, or didn't want to know. Because knowing would have made you uncomfortable, I said quietly. Yes. She met my eyes. I've been seeing a therapist. Started last week. Dr. Patterson over on Elm Street. I told her everything. Thanksgiving, the hallway fight, all of it. She used this term, willful blindness, said I chose not to see what was really happening because it served me not to see it. I wasn't expecting that. You're in therapy? Twice a week. A sad smile crossed her face. Turns out realizing your entire family dynamic is toxic and manipulative and that you've been complicit in it is kind of traumatizing. Who knew? Despite everything, I almost laughed. Yeah, who knew? Dr. Patterson also said I've been enmeshed with Mom, that I've never really individuated or developed my own identity separate from being the good daughter. That I let Mom use me as her emotional support animal while she used you as an ATM. Vanessa's voice was steady now, like she'd practiced this speech, and that both of those things were wrong. That healthy parents don't pit their children against each other or assign them roles to play. I set down my coffee cup, studying my sister's face. She looked sincere, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen her before. What did Mom say when you told her you were going to therapy? She asked if I was going to air the family's dirty laundry to a stranger. Vanessa laughed bitterly. I told her that our dirty laundry had already been aired in your apartment hallway, so we might as well wash it properly. She hasn't spoken to me much since. She's freezing you out. Completely. Dad, too. They're furious that I took your side, as they put it. She traced the rim of her coffee cup with one finger. Jeffrey's been keeping me updated. Apparently, I'm ungrateful, dramatic, and brainwashed by therapy. So Tuesday, this time I did laugh, a real laugh that bubbled up unexpectedly. Welcome to the club. We have t-shirts. Vanessa smiled, tentative but genuine. I deserve that. We sat in silence for a moment. The sounds of the coffee shop filling the space between us. The hiss of the espresso machine. The chatter of other customers. The soft indie music playing overhead. I can't fix this, Vanessa said finally. I can't undo what I said or how I acted or the years of being terrible to you. But I want you to know that I see it now. I see what happened, what I did, what they did. And I'm working on being better. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Why did you want to meet? Because you're my sister, and I love you, and I don't want to lose you over our parents' manipulation. Her voice was fierce now, passionate. Because I've been thinking about what kind of person I want to be, and she's not someone who throws her sister under the bus to make herself look good. She's not someone who believes everything she's told without questioning it. And she's definitely not someone who lets her parents use her as a weapon against her own family. I felt something tight in my chest begin to loosen. I can't go back to how things were, Vanessa. I can't pretend Thanksgiving didn't happen or that everything's fine now. I don't want you to. She reached across the table, stopping just short of touching my hand. I want us to build something new. Something honest. No more being the good daughter and the bad daughter. Just sisters. Real ones. I looked at her hand, so close to mine. Then at her face, open and hopeful and scared. This was the sister I'd always wanted. the one who saw me, who questioned the narrative, who chose truth over comfort. Slowly, I reached out and took her hand. It's going to take time. Trust doesn't rebuild overnight. I know. She squeezed my hand, tears flowing freely now. I have time. As much as you need. We talked for another hour after that. About her therapy sessions and what she was learning. About the job she was finally getting serious about finding instead of relying on Mom and Dad. About the apartment lease she was going to take over completely, even if it meant getting a roommate. About boundaries and healing and what healthy family relationships actually looked like. When we finally left Brewster's, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Vanessa walked me to my car, and before I got in, she hugged me. A real hug, not the performative side squeeze we usually did at family functions. "Thank you for giving me a chance," she whispered. "Thank you for doing the work," I whispered back. As I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from Jeffrey. "How'd it go?" I smiled and typed back, "Better than expected. Your cousin might actually be growing up." His response came quickly. "Miracles do happen. Hey, some of us are doing a non-family Christmas thing. Just the cousins who aren't terrible. You in?" I didn't even hesitate. "Send me the details." That night, I sat in my apartment, my peaceful, drama-free, boundary-protected apartment, and thought about everything that had happened since Thanksgiving. The humiliation, the confrontation, the phone call, the hallway scene, the 3 weeks of silence. And now, this coffee meeting felt like the first honest conversation I'd had with Vanessa in years. Has it been worth it? Blowing up my family, walking away, standing my ground? Yes, 1,000 times yes. Because I'd learned something crucial in those 3 weeks of silence. My worth wasn't determined by how much I gave or how perfectly I performed the role of dutiful daughter. My worth was inherent, unchangeable. Mine, and anyone who couldn't see that, who couldn't appreciate what I offered without demanding I reshape myself to fit their needs, didn't deserve access to me. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Simone. "Wine night this weekend?" "I want to hear all about coffee with Vanessa," I typed back. "Absolutely. Your place or mine?" "Yours. I'll bring the expensive stuff." I smiled, setting my phone down and looking around my apartment. My space, my peace, my life finally lived on my own terms. In the end, Thanksgiving dinner hadn't ruined me. It freed me, and that was the best gift I could have ever given myself. 3 days before Christmas, a package arrived at my door. No return address, but I recognized Mom's handwriting on the label. Inside was the pie server from the formal china set, the one that matched the plates I'd carefully arranged on Thanksgiving. The plates I'd never gotten to eat from because I'd walked out. There was a note, written in Mom's careful cursive. "This belongs to you. It was supposed to be your inheritance piece. No apology. No explanation. Just a piece of china and the implication that I'd given up my place at the table." I turned the pie server over in my hands, feeling its weight, its history. Then I walked to my kitchen, opened the drawer where I kept serving utensils, and placed it inside. Not displayed. Not treasured, just there. A tool. If I ever needed it. Because that's what family was supposed to be. People who supported you. Who you could rely on. Who lifted you up when you needed it. Not artifacts. You had to earn through performance, not obligations wrapped in guilt. Not conditional. Love that evaporated the moment you stopped playing your assigned role. I closed the drawer and went back to planning Jeffrey's cousin's Christmas, where the dress code was pajamas and the only requirement was showing up as yourself. That was the family I wanted, and I was finally brave enough to choose it. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.